I think I want to stress something which may surprise you. But you know that in most of history, art has been concerned with religion, has been the support of religion. And religions have made their impact and acquired their support with the help of art. I'm not a religious person myself, but I have studied religions of every kind, perhaps because I've never received a religious education. And I've become very interested by how strong religious force is throughout the world. And you see this in many parts of the world, where as many as 95% of people say that is dominating them. And I'm talking now in international terms. England is the most heathen of countries. England and Denmark and Scandinavia. But as soon as you get south, religion is powerful, and you can see that in what happens in the football competition. How many players going onto the field make the sign of the cross before coming on, and coming off. And this happens in Southern Europe. What I think you must appreciate about religion is that vast number of new religions are being invented every day almost. There's something like 5,000 religions in the world. And even in China, where it was abolished, some provinces, 1,000 new temples, 10,000 new temples have been established. And Japan is one of the most active inventors of religion. And evangelical Christianity is developing enormously. Korea is full of it. And this means, what is religion then? You've got to say to yourself, because this is what art has been a collaborator with. Religion is about the things we don't know, the things we cannot be certain about. It's about what we cannot express. And it's about the imagination, therefore. It's about uncertainty. But the big difference that has occurred, the big change that has occurred in religion, is that the priests and the authorities in religion have said, we do know exactly what is the truth. And anybody who doesn't believe what we believe is a heretic. And there is a dogma. And that is a big change between religion at the beginning of its development and at the end of its development. And it's what people cannot talk about. They have a resistance to uncertainty. That is what religion is against. Uncertainty. We now know the truth. Now you've got to think about this, it seems to me, because you've got to penetrate these areas of uncertainty and enable people to live with uncertainty. What you are creating is something which is an assurance that it is possible for humans to use not only their fear, the fear of uncertainty and insecurity, but also to conquer fear by making what is unfamiliar familiar, and what is impossible to imagine imaginable. And you're moving into what people will, in the area which people are willing to talk about. And secondly, I want you to realize the crisis, because of course there is a crisis in religion, and possibly we'll have a war between the Islamic world and the Western world. Previously we had secular religions of communism. We're going to fight the communists. Now we're going to fight religious people, are going to fight, and we have got to contribute to this. These are social issues. And the second most important social issue is what is happening in work, because the work which is available to everybody today was mainly invented a long time ago to enable poor peasants who couldn't find enough to live on to improve themselves and go to the cities where they thought they would do better. And we invented agriculture, and we invented industry, and we invented the service society, and we still have not solved the problem of work, of how people can live doing work which they really like and which they would do even if they were not paid. And most people say there's a big separation between what they do at work and what they do outside work. And that outside work is their way of life, but they devote most of their hours to work, and their status depends on their work. And most work is specialized, so you see only a very small part of the world. And most work can be repetitive and boring, so it is the opposite of artistic and inventive. I've mentioned two obstacles which are, to me, crucial in what is the social problems which you are faced with. And if this lab is going to achieve something, it must be able to contribute something to this. And my view is that each person who has a religion or has no religion has a different religion, because each imagines, interprets, expresses their religion or their beliefs or their ideology with slight differences. Each person is unique. And likewise, if we want to make work suit the kinds of people we are educating, because we're now educating people up to university standard and we're teaching them to be critical, and then they find the world is very critical and it's not what they want, and they don't want to go and sit in front of a computer all day. They want to see the world, they want to use their imagination, they want to live, and work stops them from living. Of course, there are a few who are privileged, very few who are privileged and able to do what excites them all the time, but the majority are not. And so we have to find out what each person is and how we can then, using that information, create ways of earning our living which are not oppressive and a form of torture or a form of part-time slavery. I think this is far from art, but no, this is exactly what art does. What art does is to say, this is what the world seems to be, but it doesn't have to be that, like that. We can see that it can be put in different ways. We can reshape it. We are imagining what else it can be. And we can show that what you might be afraid of, if we make it familiar to you by creating an image of it or some other form of expression of it, we can make the unfamiliar less fearful. And we can free you from what obstructs everything, which is fear. Fear of insecurity, fear of uncertainty, fear that you'll be laughed at, fear that you can't speak properly. And the message I want to give you is that if you can find ways by each one of you can, by different methods and in different techniques, contribute to the discovery of who individuals are and how they can reveal what they have and how they can combine with others to become more than what they are. And using your different skills to achieve that. If you can bring that together and make that your joint goal by each one of you as a different approach to it, then I think this lab could have a pioneering role in showing that this is something which, though it may take a long time, It's something which involves everybody. And it means also that everyone, therefore, is urged to become an artist. This is not as fanciful as you may think. In China, in ancient China, every educated person was expected to be an artist and was an artist and wrote poetry and painted pictures and had to show their culture by doing something themselves, not just by going to the cinema. And it's interesting that the Arts Council fools itself in believing that it has achieved its objectives. It is produced in order, obviously, to justify its funding. It's saying something like 79% of people have been involved in the arts in the past year. I couldn't find out what kind of involvement this was. So I looked very hard, and I couldn't find it for England. I found it for Scotland, where they actually revealed the truth. And it is that they had read a book, or they had been 2 or 3 times to cinema. And this counts as participating in an artistic experience. No, I think art involves taking the world and saying it doesn't have to be like this. And that is where art and science combine. Because science says, look, you think the sun is moving this way, but it's real moving around there. You think this is made of wood. No, it's made of all sorts of electrons and molecules and things that you cannot see. Nothing is what it appears to be. And that is the only way that you can make change to social life, to political life, or to any kind of life, by saying, no, it doesn't have to be the way it is. And you have to say, well, what could it be? And this is what you show. It could be this, it could be that. But also you see that we will not get a consensus about what it is. Whereas the scientists almost get a consensus, and they never reach the truth. They want the truth, but they can't agree about it. Because it's always incomplete. They know it's always incomplete. And that, I think, is very important to keep in mind. But in art, one is saying each individual is trying to make his life into a work of art. And it is something which each one has to try and think about and do with the help of people who stimulate them. And that is why the foundation I started is called the Muse, the Oxford Muse, M-U-S-E, which means inspiration. It's not teaching, it's not instructing. I've spent all my life in academia, and I know that you never succeed in teaching anyone anything. They always interpret it in a different way. But what you can do is you can stimulate people. And that's what the ancient Greek muses did. They used the arts. They were the 9 arts. And they used the arts to stimulate people by making them use their imagination in different ways. And that's how you get out of the misery and the stress and all the disappointments of life, by seeing that it can be otherwise and inventing ways by which it could be otherwise. And the wonderful at the end of this, you produce a manifesto which says, here you are, you're a group of people who want to stimulate others in a particular direction to join you. Because everybody can contribute to this. And Barbican could be the center of a Barbican Muse. You could be the pioneers of something which affects the world in general. The great danger, and I like what one of you said, that it's not enough just to help a community. You've got to think in universal, international terms, because we're no longer in command of our nation, of our community. The decisions which affect us are made elsewhere. And so you must have an answer which anybody in any country can participate in. Well, that is my message to you. And I plan, we're going now to go and have a meal and start on this process by getting each of you to get to know someone better. So you're going to be put in pairs, and you're going to talk to them using a menu, which will show you that what I'm saying is not waffle. Thank you.